This little camper AC used to be a problem, but not anymore. Stick around and I'll show you how I went from this to this. I'm Emma Mack. This is my very first video, and today I'm going to show you how I tackled an AC mod that solves airflow and drainage issues in my camper. It's easier than it looks, and I'll walk you through it step by step. So here's what I was working with. A window unit AC tucked inside this box. Sounds fine, right? Well, not really. The airflow was choked, the condensation had nowhere to go, and instead of draining outside, it was draining right into the camper. You can see the damage it caused inside the walls of my friend, and yeah, that's not the kind of surprise anyone wants. Before we dive in, here's what you'll want to have on hand. An Apache 4800 case, aluminum angle, self-tapping screws, a round head machined screws with nuts, marine grade waterproof tape, RV grade clear silicone caulk, a sheet of PVC trim, rigid foam insulation, and nylon strapping. I'll drop the full list in the description so you can double check before you start. We're starting with the outer box. You'll want to cut about 1.5 inches to 2 inches off your case. If you want a slimmer profile, you can cut off more, but I wouldn't go past 4 inches. Now I'm using a table saw here, and ideally you'd want to have a tall fence for this, which I didn't. So I whipped up one on the fly. Not exactly textbook, and I'm sure the comments will let me know. But hey, I'm not a pro, just making it work. As you can see, I kind of forgot to peel off the stickers before making my cuts. Yeah, no big deal. They come off fast with a heat gun, and if you don't have one, a regular hair dryer works just as well. Any sticky residue, just use the sticker itself to grab and pull it off. For the stubborn spots, you can use a little Goo Gone, rubbing alcohol, or even nail polish remover. Now we're moving on to make the aluminum flange that'll connect the box to the camper. I grabbed this aluminum angle from my local Home Depot. I didn't get a video of me taking the measurements, sorry about that, but you'll want to measure the straight sides of the box, not the rounded corners. Once you've got those measured, start cutting the pieces down to size. I used a bandsaw this time because it was available to me and gave me better precision. The first time I did this, I used an angle grinder, which works fine. I just wanted a cleaner look for the end user since this one's not going on my own camper. Once your pieces are cut, go ahead and clean up any burrs left on the ends. You don't want sharp edges. After that, bring each piece over to your box so we can start getting everything lined up. Back at the box, you can see what I meant about measuring each side without including the corners. And yeah. You may also notice the stickers are still on. It took me a little while to realize they were still there. I did mention I'm not a professional, right? I also marked the flange so I wouldn't accidentally drill bolt holes that would interfere with any of the fins on the box. Next, I made marks for where the bolt holes would go. Now, I could have measured all of these out and had them perfectly centered. Yep, I definitely could have. And maybe I'll make a template for the next one, if I do another. Then it was time to bring it over to the world's slowest drill press and get these holes drilled. If you don't have a drill press, no worries. You can still do this with a clamp and a handheld drill. Back to the sander to take care of those burrs. One thing I should mention, aluminum is soft. You do not need to apply a lot of pressure. Just let the sandpaper do the work for you. Before we finish building the box, we're going to jump out to the camper and remove the outer cover of the air conditioner. Don't worry, when you take that thing off, it's going to look like a mess underneath. Don't worry about it, we're going to get to it. Once the cover is off and you've cleaned up any old butyl tape or silicone caulking, set your outer box in place like this and trace out your opening. Make sure the hinge side of the box is at the top of the cover piece. You can tell the top from the bottom because the bottom has holes in it. Those are the holes where the AC was supposed to drain, but never actually did. Once you've traced this out, grab a utility knife and cut along the line. You can use a Dremel if you want, but this plastic is pretty thin, and honestly, the Dremel will probably just melt the plastic on you. Once it's cut, set it aside and we'll come back to it shortly. Now we're on to assembly and getting this box ready for installation. I should mention, this was during a heat wave, over 100 degrees outside, so I snuck inside for a bit of AC. And yep, did a little DIY right there on my kitchen countertop. Here I attached each flange to its labeled side, making sure they match up to the correct bolt hole pattern, which might be yet another reason why I should make a template next time. You'll want to attach all 4 flanges at this stage so the box is fully framed and ready to go. And if you noticed, I didn't stagger the bolt holes on the opposite side of the flange. Yeah, don't make that mistake. Make sure you stagger yours and it'll save you a headache later on. Once you have the flanges installed, we're going to go ahead and add the butyl tape to the flange that will be attaching to the camper. When you're putting this on, make sure to cover the bolt holes completely. And since we're not ready for the install just yet, leave the paper backing on the tape for now. Once you're done there, we're going to repeat this process on the newly modified outer cover. You'll notice I also made a cut on the bottom. That's going to help me later on when it's time to install. I'll be able to wrap this around the outer box, put it in place, and then screw it in. Now back to the camper. Ugh, you probably pulled off that cover and noticed a big mess underneath. Butyl tape, silicone, and a whole bunch of spray foam. No worries. For the silicone and butyl tape, I used a plastic razor blade. I don't recommend a metal one, it's just going to scratch up the outer skin of your camper. For the spray foam, I use a painter's tool to pull it all out. Now that we have that all cleaned up, we're going to jump inside and remove the trim around the AC. You'll notice that the trim only covers the sides and the bottom right now. When we put this back in later, it's going to cover the sides and the top instead. Make sure to keep all your screws and trim pieces somewhere safe for later. Once your trim is out, make sure your AC is unplugged. Then it's time to remove the unit. Feed the cord through first. Make sure you get that plug in there as well. Then carefully pull the AC out. Now that is out, you can see just how bad this design really is. Nothing's protecting your electrical from water, and nothing is keeping water out of the interior. Let's get this tray out of here and see what's left below. Is anyone surprised there was sawdust or screws? Yeah, me either. Let's get this all cleaned up and we'll start making the new sliding platform. After measuring your platform area, and I can't give you exact dimension because each whacker is a bit different, it's time to make your cuts. Side note, do not do what I'm doing here. I don't have my riving knife installed after I removed my dado blades, and I'm not using a push block. And you'll see in a moment what happens when you don't. What's that phrase? Do as I say, not as I do. Now we're going to do a quick test fit. In my camper, I needed to add this piece here to give the platform some elevation. But on this camper, it wasn't needed. So I had to remove it. Once I knew how my platform would work, I went ahead and took it out and prepped the cabinet and the opening. Now I want to chat real quick about this area. I use blue rigid foam on each side. You really only need to cover the electrical for safety, but I always do both sides. Then I go around the outer edge with marine grade tape and seal it off to help protect it from weather and water. Once I have the platform in, I cover the outer edge as well. And since we're chatting, remember I mentioned that the bushwhackers are all a little bit different? Your opening might be a bit taller than the others, and if that's the case, you may need to add a strip of PVC board along here. If you do, make sure to add it before your tape. Glue it in place and hold it overnight with some C-clamps. Sam over at Wizard of Moz tipped me off to this from some of the campers he's worked on using this mod. You can check him out over on his channel, Adventures of the Memory Makers. Whether you're waiting for that PVC piece to dry or you're ready to move on, it's time to flip that AC upside down and cut off those feet. I use an angle grinder for this and make easy work of it. Just make sure you watch out for that cord. Once you got the feet off, slide your AC back in and cut some nylon webbing about 8 inches long. You'll need 2 of those. And melt the ends to keep them from fraying. You may also want to make a hole in your nylon ahead of time so you don't spend 15 minutes trying to get your handle straight. Yeah, not that I would know anything about that, right? Once the handles are in, it's time to get this box on. Make sure your surface is clean. I'm going to go back over mine with some rubbing alcohol to remove any leftover butyl tape remnants. Ugh, I would have loved to show you the box being screwed onto the camper, but I found out that I had to trim my platform to make it flush with the camper. So out came the AC and the platform, cut it down, then back in again, and I also needed an extra set of hands to hold it in place while I screwed it in. So my cameraman switched up roles and became a laborer, and we were doing all of this while racing against the setting sun. One thing I do want to mention, make sure you remove the paper from the butyl tape after you check your placement and before you attach the box to the camper. Once it was attached, I went ahead and caulked all of the seams and let that dry. At this point, it was dark and the video wasn't picking up anything usable. But here's what you'll need to do. Wrap the outer cover we cut down and applied butyl tape around the box. Screw it in with your self-tapping screws and then caulk it as well. Well, now that we have some sunlight, here's the finished product from the inside. You can see I moved that bottom trim piece to the top. It keeps the AC in place while you're driving. Also, this way you can remove that piece and slide out the AC for extra storage during cold weather camping. And then I also zip tied the AC cord so it wasn't flopping around. And here's the final look from the outside. While filming and trying to open this one-handed, I'll show you how it works. But trust me, it slides out a lot easier using 2 hands. Now you're going to have some spare pieces left over. The foam inserts from the Apache box. I use all but one inside the box during transport to keep the AC in place. The last one I cut lengthwise, and I used to fill any gaps that might be there once the AC is pulled out to keep mosquitoes from coming in. The metal screening, I've seen some people use it to stop mosquitoes from entering through their furnace exhaust. And finally, I use a 1x2 cut about 19 inches to hold up my case door while pulling the AC out and running it. And that's it. The mod is done. I hope this gave you some ideas if you're dealing with the same airflow and draining issues I had. Since this is my very first video, I'd love if you left a comment, let me know what you think, or if you have any questions. And if you want to see some more DIY camping projects like this, hit that subscribe button so you can follow along. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.